when you really understand where somebody's pain points are and where they're not showing up authentically, then I can dig and ask more questions, because every single human is important and your opinion is important. And even though you're having emotions, emotions are very real. They may not be valid, but they're real.
Welcome to the Dream Home Podcast, the show where real estate meets real talk. Hosted by John Nagle, a seasoned expert with over $7 billion in real estate financing experience. This podcast features top realtors, builders, and financial pros. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you make smarter moves. Here's your host, John Nagle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Dream Home Podcast, where we explore the people, strategies, and ideas that help you build not just a home, but a life of real security, freedom, and purpose. I'm your host, John Nagle with CMG Home Loans. Today's episode is a little different in the best possible way, because we're talking about something that impacts every home buyer, every business owner, every family, and really every person listening right now, your emotional relationship with money. I'm excited to welcome Julie Murphy to the show. Julie is an independent certified financial planner, longtime Chicago wealth management leader, and founder of JMC Wealth, author, speaker, and media expert whose work helps heal the emotions behind money so they can create what she calls real wealth. She is the author of The Emotion Behind Money, Awaken Your Wealth, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Money, and companion workbooks designed to help people move from fear, scarcity, and old subconscious patterns into alignment, abundance, and practical financial empowerment. Julie, welcome to the Dream Home Podcast. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thanks, John. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So Julie, a lot of financial professionals help people with investments, retirement planning, or cash flow, but your message goes much deeper. You focus on the emotions behind money. What makes that your superpower, and why is that the missing piece for so many people?
Well, the industry as a whole does everything from the left brain logical, and it wasn't until like 10 years ago, which was 20 years after I started doing the work that I do, that Harvard came out with a white paper that said, there's this thing called behavioral finance, and you need to take like the human heart into account. And I'm like going, duh, like, how can you deal with people and their money and not actually deal with who they are as a human? And so we have this disconnect between taking the left brain logical and the right brain emotional and really helping people merge those two sides of themselves and helping them get to a life that they really desire, because most people are not sitting financially where they desire to be.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is incredible how people have this sort of built-in subconscious feeling about money, whether it's I'm afraid to have money, or I have fears or concerns if I have money, and so on. So it's really an interesting strategy that you came up with.
When I was researching my first book, I found research of Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he had stated that 97% of our response to the external world has to do with an occurrence that happened before we were 7 years old, and it hardwired into our subconscious mind. And so 97% of the time you are responding with that fear or anxiety from something that hardwired into every human before 7 years old. Because consciously you wouldn't make those choices to do those things, because many times we go, why did I say that? Why did I do that? And when we start to understand that that's what's driving the engine 97% of the time, we have to take your right brain emotional into account. Like, it's a no-brainer from my perspective.
Yeah, that is really amazing. So a lot of people think their problem is budgeting, discipline, or math. What really, it may be fear, shame, self-worth, or old conditioning. When someone comes to you, what are they really asking for help and underneath the surface?
That's interesting that you asked that, because I always say that I'm a soul coach and drag as a financial planner. And what I mean by that is that, we came here with our gifts and our unique abilities, and we're making choices. We have this free will, but our soul came here to do something. And what I find that oftentimes what we do as humans is that we make choices for our free will, that aren't in alignment with who we are authentically, because we people please, we try to control things, we try to appease others in many different ways. And that's our subconscious mind again. It's how we're trying to go back to that survival and scarcity mode from a child so that we didn't die. So we stuff down those emotions that were going on because of this earlier event in our life. And then we're responding in a way that's actually really, truly not authentic. And so we do that through like spending, creating debt, by, I always say we work things out or we act it out, and we do it through our money, our health, or our relationships. And so when somebody first comes to me, I'm not only asking them questions about their money, I'm asking them questions about, well, how do you feel about your job? Good, bad, or different? How do you like the people that you work with? Good, bad, or different? Like I'm staying in a state of neutrality so that they can get this up and out. Now, it's interesting when I'm often meeting with couples, one of the people in the couple will try to edit the other person and interrupt them. And I'm like, can I have a moment? Can I just like get this out of this other person? And so, because when you really understand where somebody's pain points are and where they're not showing up authentically, then I can dig and ask more questions, because every single human is important and your opinion is important. And even though you're having emotions are very real. They may not be valid, but they're real. And if we need to figure out where they are emotionally, and then there are financial products that I have helped people align themselves to where emotionally they're okay, but it's also efficient financially. And so that's why I always say that I'm a soul coach and drag as a financial planner. People think that they're coming to me for asset management and financial planning, but it's really, I'm helping them align with themselves, and the financial products then will be the result of them doing that from an efficiency standpoint. And they're much happier. That's what happens. I've been referred to by my clients, and they're like, no, she's not like any other financial planner that you've ever met. And it's because I help them align with themselves. And then that what really makes people very happy, because when you are yourself and not trying to please everybody else or control everybody else or stay in a job that you hate because you're providing for your family, right? Like that only over time creates disease in your body. And if we started to learn what some of these choices that we're making do long term, we'd step off the ledge and find the courage to actually make the hard decisions.
Yeah, well, very happy is a good thing, that is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest themes in your work is that someone can look successful on the outside and still feel stuck, empty, or unhappy around money. Why does that happen so often?
Because we're chasing progress. We're chasing something outside of ourselves. We're, again, going back to try to people please others. Or I'll give you a great example here. So I have a not enough button. So how mine wired into me was that I never felt like I was enough. My grandfather played football for the University of Notre Dame, and he went off to the war and never finished. And my dad always said, well, before my dad died, he said, one of us has got to go finish his job at Notre Dame. And I was like, okay, like I love Notre Dame, I'll go. And I will never forget, and this is my practice and my not enough button. My dad would say to my brothers, what's wrong with you? Your sister went to Notre Dame. Because I'm like, well, Dad, I could date the football team, but I can't be on the football team, but it was my not enough button. And I had realized somewhere along the boat that fear of being not enough was my driver in my life. But that is like a house that is built on stilts, right? And when I realized that and said, this isn't about Dad, it's not about anything, it's about my emotional infrastructure inside, that when I started to be building things that were important to me, as opposed to, I can show them. I mean, I even went into a man's industry. There was 1% women when I became a financial planner 30 years ago.
Wow.
And today it's 12% women. So I even went into to show them that I'm not enough, and nobody would listen. I would have people in the industry say to me, oh, wait, Jewel, you're kind of like a one-hit wonder. And I would say, what? I'll show it to you. And because the industry wouldn't listen until you beat everybody by their numbers, because it was all left brain logical. Mm-hmm. Well, today I'm getting on stage in front of thousands of financial planners, telling them, You gotta shift to doing it like this because this is where you really make an impact and your business grows on a quantum level. And it's because you're taking the human heart into account. And every single one of us have a not enough button. I don't feel loved. I don't feel worthy. On some level, this trauma or rejection before you turn 7 years old hardwired into you. And this is how you're emotionally now responding or reacting. And trust me, the world today is giving us a lot of practice at reacting of things that are happening around the world, right? And so what this does is your money is actually the result of how you're responding because they now know, scientists know that diabetes is at 44 megahertz. Cancer is at 52 megahertz. So when you, and we as humans, Einstein proved it, we are energy. And what I mean by that is that where you are vibrating in your frequency, and that is monitored by your emotions. Our emotions are energy in motion. So if you're frustrated, if you're not happy at your job, that's lowering your vibration. So what are you doing financially? You're blocking pay raises, promotions, job opportunities, referrals coming to you because you're lowering your vibration, and then you're inviting disease to come into your body. Because I realized a lot of work that I did with Deepak Chopra through the years, there's this integration between our health and our wealth. And that's why I know if your finances are good and you're doing good there and you're just compounding your investments, something's going on with your health or something's going on with your relationships. And I've noticed this correlation. So that's why when I'm meeting them, I'm asking questions in every area so that you can become whole, so that you can really start to become much more in alignment, which creates more happiness and more opportunities and more money.
So let's make this practical. If someone listening says, that's me, I work hard, I make decent money, but I still feel anxious every time I look at my finances, where do you start?
Well, one of the things that we have to realize is that our nervous system is what really creates things, our reality. So meaning that if your nervous system is not neutral, so you've got anxieties as an example. The PACT system that I walk people through, PACT, it's all in my second book, Awaken Your Wealth. It's the process I walk every individual through. We have to do things in a way that keep your nervous system in neutral. So, for an example, many people have debt. That's one of the things that you do. You help people get their debt under management better, right? We have to clean up our past while living in the present moment and plan for the future all at the same time. I meet many people who have a ton of debt and they're like, well, I just got this bonus and I just want to pay off this debt, and they keep going. And the challenge is that if you take 100% of what I call newfound money, like a bonus or a pay raise or a tax return, or you paid off your car, all those different kinds of opportunities, if you take that and you pay 100% off a debt, you're actually not changing your patterning. What you're doing is you're saying, oh, I'm just going to be creating more debt because if I don't have emergency reserves because I just paid off the debt, you're going to use your credit cards when the next emergency happens. So how are you interrupting your patterning? And so if you've got anxiety, the PACT process is, I want you to picture the dream that you want to create. What do you want in your life? From your career, from your finances, because that is your compelling reason to change what you're currently doing. If I focused on the second step first, which is reality, accepting the reality that you've created already, it's just going to give you more anxiety, more frustration, more shame, more guilt. Your compelling reason to get out of that lower vibrating emotional state is to focus on the dream. What do you want for tomorrow? And then the process that I walk people through is, so what's the bridge in between? And we take those steps while cleaning up your past, living in the present moment, planning for the future all at the same time, by walking across that bridge, keeping your nervous system in neutral. And for different people, it's different things, but let's take a pay raise as an example, as a practical. You get a pay raise, you get a 6% raise. Take 2% of that raise, add to your debt payments every month. 2%, put it in your spending bucket. Whether it's planning for vacations or something you want to buy or something of that nature, or you just need it for daily bills. And the other 2%, start to build your wealth up with short-term, mid-term, and long-term. If you have no emergency savings, you start there. You take that 2%, you put in a savings account that you do not touch because everybody keeps savings accounts rotational these days. So stick it somewhere where you don't touch it. Maybe it's a bank that your checking account's not at, right? Those are simple methods that you can do that keep your nervous system in neutral. So it helps to reduce your anxieties. And usually, if people have anxieties, they don't open up their credit card envelopes at all. I would encourage you just to start finding the courage to open up those envelopes, because I see that quite often when somebody has anxiety.
So you talk a lot about subconscious money patterns. For listeners hearing that phrase for the first time, what does that actually look like in everyday life?
Well, let's just say you're in a situation in life and something comes at you and you react. You're like, "What?" Or maybe you're not a person that goes outward with it. Maybe you're a person that sinks in, right? So you either project out or you sink in and you go in your little cubby hole. That is your subconscious mind going, "I don't feel safe, and I'm going to get rid of it and project it to somebody else, or I'm going to go inside and I just need to escape. I just need to escape and go hide out." And that's what it looks like when your subconscious mind is running the engine, because that's coming from your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind. And the work there is because what's trying to happen there is those feelings that you didn't feel when you were a child, that's what's coming up. It's about being with those feelings and allowing them to come up and out. So instead of projecting out to somebody else, proactively keep your mouth shut. Be like, "Oh my God, I'm triggered inside and I don't know what to do with this trigger." And it's about just sitting with it to allow the emotions to move through you. That's what is locked in that subconscious mind. And the only way to get to the other side is to feel the feelings that 5 or 6 year old never felt. Otherwise, it's called a core wound. The psychological field calls it your core wound. And that's what results in, again, we either work things out or we act it out through our money, our health, or our relationships.
So, Julie, can you share a quick example of a client breakthrough that shows what can happen when someone heals the emotional side of money?
Well, oftentimes people find that they're in marriages that are what I would call trauma bonds, meaning that you're in a marriage where you got a tug and pull. And so you're either going to grow together or you're going to grow apart, because one person will do their work and the other person won't. So that's an example, but you can do that also if you grow apart in loving ways and do it healthy for your children. Like I've helped many people through that. I've also had people where um, they're in a job and their boss is just like their father, as an example. So like I had one client who her dad was a narcissist, and she realized she became the chief marketing officer making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And she realized in her career that she kept working for people who were narcissists that were her dad, that she was trying to prove that she was enough, but she was a workaholic, like super successful because she was super alcoholic, or not alcoholic, workaholic. And she realized when she finally got to the pinnacle of her career, and she had made money along the way, but she had this dance with debt. She would rack up debt, but then she'd get a bonus and pay it off. At the same time, she was increasing her net worth. But when she finally reported directly to the CEO, because she was a CMO, she goes, "Oh my God, this guy is my dad." That's when she had the aha moment. And then she reflected that all of her bosses were, and she just walked in one day going, "I'm sorry, I need to quit. I can't do this anymore." 'Cause she decided to stop playing the game trying to make dad happy. And she then started her own business, and she's super successful, and she's a professor at the University of Colorado. And so when you then align with your authentic self, you realize going, "Do I really want to be in corporate marketing strategy, or do I actually want to do something else?" And she loves being a teacher. Like that is her passion and her purpose. And she's no longer a workaholic, and she's doing it in something that feeds her soul. And guess what? Her debt pattern has completely gone away.
Wow, that's an amazing story. So you've created a whole body of work around this message through The Emotion Behind Money, Awaken Your Wealth, and The Four Spiritual Laws of Money. When you look at those books together, what journey are you trying to take your readers on?
A journey of self-empowerment and self-awareness, and that you are the creator of your life and you can choose to create whatever you want. And the path that I've worked with clients, I know works and can get you there.
Now, I especially want to ask about Awaken Your Wealth because the PACT system is such a big part of your message. For someone new to it, what is PACT and why does it help people move from healing into action?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the PACT process is a process that keeps you in a state of neutrality from your nervous system. Because if you think about it, if you're anxiety, your nervous system contracts. So, you cannot manifest the life that you want if your nervous system is contracting. So, this is about you staying in a state of neutrality so that your world can expand, right? Financially and otherwise. And so, PACT, again, you want to picture the life that you want to create because that's your compelling reason for change. Otherwise, you wouldn't change anything. The A in the PACT process is accepting your reality and awaken your authenticity. This is about waking you back up in alignment with self. The third step is choosing to change because it's one thing to be aware, it's another thing to actually choose it. They're two different things. And then the T is taking action, which is what every financial planner does, but every financial planner skips the first three steps. And that's what creates sustainable change, is by making sure you're doing the PAC before you get to the T. Because if you take action, that's why I think when I go to networking events or something else, I go, oh, I'm a financial planner. And they go, oh, nice to meet you. And then they squirrel away. And I think it's because most people have been screwed over by somebody in the financial or insurance industry because a product was sold to them and it wasn't in alignment with themselves. And then when they realized it wasn't in alignment, they had spent a ton of money already in that product. And I believe that that's why the taking action can't happen until you figure out who you are, what you want, and then take the action so you get the proper products that will get you there the most efficiently.
And one thing I really like is that you don't just share ideas, you give people multiple ways to engage through books, workbooks, coaching, workshops, and online resources. For someone brand new to your world, where should they start?
I mean, I have a lot of YouTube videos. You can go on my social media. I'm one of 12 children, so I didn't grow up with money, but I had to learn how to create it as well as hold on to it. And that I have done. And so I wanted to make sure that my platform and my businesses, because I have two, one is my online platform, that is my books and my social media, my speaking and everything, my group coaching. I wanted a point that people could get access to me no matter what. So if you're strapped more, I have people in a group coaching once a week. And I do it as a team because that people can pay less then, right? And I also have where people can do sessions with me one-on-one, right? But I also have free stuff on my social media. So anywhere that a person's at, they can plug into me to help them to get to the next step of their journey.
What's one simple exercise a listener can do in the next 24 hours to begin healing their relationship with money?
List out all your debt and their interest rates and their minimum payments and what it is that you are paying, and redesign how you're making those payments to pay the most on the highest rated debt. Because most people don't do that.
Makes a lot of sense. So a lot of money stress also shows up in relationships. How do people start talking about money with a spouse or partner when the topic feels loaded, awkward, or emotional?
Well, I always tell people to start with saying, I know this may not come out right, but here's my intention. Because when you're nervous about a conversation that's been frustrating already, you're not going to say it perfect. And the other person's going to trigger. And then that's their subconscious triggering. And then you got a trigger going after a trigger, right? That's why it's not fun to have that conversation anymore. So it's just about take the steam out of the engine and just be like, I know I'm not going to take this perfect. I just know I want us to create something different. And I'd like to figure out how to do that. And I know I'm not going to be perfect in my communication, but I know that this is what I want. And I'd love to sit there and do it. Because what you're doing is you're just pulling all the stress away because you're stating your intention of what you want before it escalates. It kind of creates that neutral zone I talk about, right? And sometimes the other person will play with you and sometimes they won't. And that's where it gets to a time where if the other person doesn't want to collaborate, well, then you have to wonder why you're there then anymore. If it really, because a lot of times what it is, it's one person trying to control the other person, and nobody deserves to be controlled. And I've had a lot of women, like when I'm divorced, and when I first got divorced, a lot of women said to me, well, but you control the money, so that's why it's easy for you. And I'm like, that's a story, and you can do whatever you want, right? A lot of my clients are college educated. I'm like, you have a degree. Like, what do you mean? Like, yes, will it be different? Yes. Will it be a new adventure? Yes. But you have to decide that you love yourself more than you love anything else, because it's about self-love.
Absolutely. So for the person listening who feels like they've been stuck in not enough for years, maybe even while doing all the right things, what would you say to them today?
You are enough. And every day you need to wake up and look in the mirror and say, I am enough. And what I found when I give that assignment to people, because I used to do it every time I stopped at a stoplight, going, I'm just going to say, I am enough. I am worthy. I am loved. Because when you first start to say it, you'll stutter on your words. You can't look yourself in the mirror. You're like, you look a different direction. And that means because your insides really don't believe it yet. And that's why the repetition of doing it every day, and that will then start to get the cells in your body to actually start to believe that you're on a different trajectory. But the whole universe works on sound and vibration. So you want that sound and vibration to go out, because that will, and as simple as that is, it actually starts the shift.
So, Julie, when you hear the phrase real wealth, what is the first word that comes to your heart?
Authenticity.
It's great. I like that. So, Julie, this has been outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing such powerful perspective on money, healing, happiness, and what it means to really build wealth from the inside out. For everyone listening, the conversation was a reminder that money is never just math. It touches our identity, our relationships, our peace, our purpose, and the kind of life we're building every day. If you want to learn more about Julie Murphy, her books, her workshops, and her coaching resources, be sure to visit her websites at jmcwealth.com and juliemurphy.com, and check out the show notes for links that you can connect with her directly. And if you're listening to Dream Home Podcast because you're thinking about buying, refinancing, building wealth through home ownership, or simply creating a smarter financial future for your family, I'd love to help. Reach out to me, John Nagle at CMG Home Loans, and make sure that you subscribe to the Dream Home Podcast, share this episode with a friend, and stay tuned for the next conversation. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Again, Julie, thank you so much. This has been
Thank you, John.
Thanks for listening to the Dream Home Podcast, hosted by John Nagle. Ready to take the next step toward your dream home? Visit www.dreamhomepodcast.com for resources, tips, and expert advice. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time for more real estate insights and mortgage tips. Until then, happy home hunting.